States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We acknowledge that Milwaukee lies on traditional Menominee, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk homeland along the southwest shores of Lake Michigan, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes. On this site, the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnick rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's Menominee, Ojibwa, Ho-Chunk, Oneida, and Mohegan sovereign nations remain present to this day. This meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Services Building. This meeting is also being broadcast on WYMS Radio 88.9 FM and via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we will have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta de la Mesa Directiva de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número. Nuevamente, para escuchar esta reunión en español, llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número.
Before we move to our agenda, the chair will ask that we share in a moment of silence to commemorate the passing of the following members of the MPS community. Emmanuel Johnson, a student at Riverside High School. Tracy Blue, a teacher at Browning School. Carol Kress, a retired secretary. Dominique Watson, a ninth grader in the MATC Emergency Scholars Program. The board also wishes to acknowledge the passing of former Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Gregory Thornton, who served the district from 2010 to 2014. If we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Each month, the Milwaukee Board of School Directors accepts the public's input both at committee meetings and through correspondence submitted to the Office of Board Governance. As this is the regular monthly meeting of the board, however, in accordance with board rules, the board will not be taking public comment. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Order dictate that all comments, questions, or requests should be directed to the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. Please be respectful of the democratic process adhered to by the board. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone persisting in disrupting this process will be asked to leave or will be escorted from the meeting and not allowed to return. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. Also, no one other than the members of the board, designated staff, and those who've been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the Meetings, Agendas and Minutes page on the MPS website and choosing Online Agendas. Now let's begin, Madam Secretary. What is our first item of business?
The first item is action on the minutes of the October 2024 special and regular meetings of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors.
If there are no corrections, the minutes will be approved by consensus. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the superintendent?
Madam President, we have 3 communications from the superintendent. The first is the monthly report with possible action from the superintendent of schools. This is an informational item, and although it's noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the superintendent please present the report?
President Herndon, members of the board, Eduardo Galvan, interim superintendent. I was very happy to be present today, this past weekend at a showcase for writing of our students that participated in the Dr. Martin Luther King contest. Overall, over 7,000 students participated in this particular showcase of their writing. It happened on December 7th. 24 students presented their creative written works at We Energies, engaging the audience with powerful reflections on Dr. King's legacy. The theme this year was, "What are you doing for others?" And our students did a wonderful job of representing what they are doing and what we can do. Congratulations to Rakia Jones from Samuel Clemens School, named the 2025 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Teacher of the Year for her nearly 29 years of dedication to teaching and inspiring students to learn about Dr. King's ideals. Looking forward, on January 20th, 2025, the 41st annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration will be hosted at the Performing Arts Center. Invited our 50 contest winners to share their interpretations of Dr. King's words. Thanks to the partnership with We Energies, the Performing Arts Center, and them, as well as other support of families and educators, these events align with the ambitious instruction framework, fostering student engagement in fine arts, history, and literacy, while empowering them to become leaders and amplify their voices. An update on Teaching Lab. Teaching Lab is partnering with MPS through Project RISE, which stands for Refine, Improve, Share, Elevate, to support the implementation of the Ambitious Instruction Accelerating Learning Plan. The initiative focuses on using high-quality, standards-aligned instructional materials and promoting culturally and linguistically responsive teaching practices. 7 Teaching Lab coaches are supporting participants across 4 regions, with cohorts totaling 98 schools. In August 2025, an additional cohort of 94 schools will join. The partnership aims to achieve MPS goal of having at least 50% of students reach proficiency or higher on district and state assessments. This past Saturday, the Rufus King International High School varsity drumline was crowned city champion at the 22nd annual MPS Battle of the Drumlines held at Rufus King. This marked their 17th championship win ahead of Riverside University and Ronald Reagan. Again, it was a joy to be there and see what our students can do, and it was, from everything I heard, one of the tightest competitions they've had in recent years. So great job by all of the schools that were represented. The event was the largest in over a decade, featuring performances from 16 schools, including 9 competing for the title and 7 showcasing an exhibition. The competition highlighted the rapid growth of drumline programs in MPS schools, with 6 new drumlines added this year alone. Participants ranging in size from 3 to 50 members celebrated music education and camaraderie, with competing drumlines cheering for one another. An update on SROs. Since the initial steps were taken earlier this year to ensure compliance with Act 12, the development of an MOU between the Milwaukee Police Department and Milwaukee Public Schools has progressed slowly. While preliminary efforts included stakeholder input and discussions, the MOU is still under review and is not advanced as expected. Looking ahead, conversations with the mayor, chief, and city attorney are expected in the coming weeks to focus on the financial aspects of the partnership. These discussions will be crucial for determining the final outcome and ensuring that all parties are aligned before moving toward any implementation. No specific timeline for implementation has been set at this stage, as these are ongoing discussions that Milwaukee Public Schools was not part of at the inception of this process. FAFSA, we were happy to be present to kick off FAFSA on December 12th. High school seniors are encouraged to apply for financial aid by completing the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA, which helps determine eligibility for grants and loans and is issued by colleges to create financial aid packages. MPS launched the FAFSA season on December 12th, again an event where Mayor Johnson, County Executive David Crowley, President Cruz, and Chancellor Money were there, as well as myself, to encourage all of our students and their families to take advantage of the opportunity that FAFSA creates for us, and our students really are encouraged to do so. Completing FAFSA is a graduation requirement for the class of 2025. It helps make college or technical school more affordable. Families with questions can meet with counselors or advisors for assistance, and ABC provides support at 21 college and career centers across its high schools. An update on the long-range facilities master plan. Progress is moving forward on the next phase. On December 12th, the district's consultant, Perkin Eastman, posted an interest form on the long-range facility master plan website, inviting the public to apply for regional and citywide steering committees that will help guide decisions about our buildings. Letters were sent to staff and families. An article was posted on the MPS webpage to widely share the invitation to submit interest forms. The response has been strong, with 120 interest forms submitted as of late Tuesday. Of these, the majority are from MPS parents, followed by MPS teachers and school-based staff, community organization members, MPS school leaders, and MPS students. Submissions will be accepted until January 17th, and the goal is to begin the first committee in February. Again, I'm very happy to have with me some honored guests, members of the SSAC. They're going to be reporting to you today, so I invite Manuel Ishag and Owen Driscoll to give us some highlights from the work that they've been doing. Gentlemen.
President Herndon, members of the board, Manuel Ishag, co-president of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and a proud ambassador from Rufus King High School.
President Herndon, members of the board, Owen Driscoll, co-president of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and also a proud ambassador for Rufus King International High School. The SSAC consists of a diverse group of students. We aim to engage with our superintendent, sharing our views and perspectives regarding the everyday accounts at our high schools across the district. Student voice is very important to us as it allows us to improve the student high school experience for all students. 2 months ago, we held our annual SSAC elections for the 2024-2025 school year. We proudly announced that our vice president is senior Bodie Weeks from the Milwaukee High School of Languages. Bodie was recently accepted to attend MIT on a full scholarship. Our secretary is sophomore Lucina Matos from South Division High School. Lucina Matos ran on a platform of developing a newsletter for the SSAC. As executive officers, we lead a team of at-large members. This team meets with Mr. Valdez before our monthly SSAC meetings. This allows us to set the agendas and topics for each meeting. Our at-large officers include Dejan Addison from Riverside University High School, Rondell Ward from Bayview High School, Ingrid Melzer from Milwaukee High School of the Arts, Dariah Wilson from Ronald Reagan, McVester Ansoff from Rufus King, and Nyasia Fowler from Riverside University.
President Herndon, members of the board, Manuel Ishag, continuing with the ambitious mindset established by the SSAC members last year, we would like to focus on bettering school climate and culture. We'd like to thank Interim Superintendent Mr. Galvan for allowing us to share updates with you as part of his monthly report. At our October and November meetings, topics discussed included communication with Mr. Galvan regarding SROs and Assembly Bill 69, working with the Teachers Lab and DAC, seeking student perspectives regarding the hiring and retention of teachers, While researching violence in our schools, we learned that approximately 46% of schools in America have seen an increase in fighting and violence. This is according to the National Center for Education Statistics. Our next SSAC meetings will have breakout sessions to discuss violence in our schools and student solutions. Recently, we sent out a series of questions regarding fighting and violence in schools so that we have some discussion points at our next meeting. We started having student voice meetings between the SSAC, SPACs, and the board at host high schools. Board members Director Simpson and Director Leonard have gone to Milwaukee School of Languages and Golda Meir and met with some SSAC students. We're preparing to be part of the finalist stay in the district as a focus group interview panel representing the student voice to continue inclusion of student voice in the superintendent selection process.
President Herndon, members of the board, Owen Driscoll. Some of our goals for the 2024-2025 school year include equity among schools. Where are we successful and how do we promote equity? What still needs work? How can we be more effective at communicating with all schools and all high school students in the district? And of course, advocating for student voice to continue to play an important role in district decisions. We would like to leave you with this thought. When students feel that their opinions and ideas are heard and valued, they are more likely to be actively engaged in their learning and their school communities. Giving students a platform to express their thoughts and concerns foster a sense of ownership and responsibility. Student voice can encourage collaboration, motivate improvement, and create a willingness to positively engage both in and beyond the classroom. Recently, a quote on student voice by Gretchen Brian Meisels from the Harvard Graduate School of Education resonated with me. Student voice means recognizing that young people have a perspective on the world that adults cannot share, and that students' perspective should be welcomed alongside the wisdom that the adult perspective brings. Thank you.
That completes my report for the month and my wonderful SSAC as well.
Thank you very much. Does the board wish to make any comments? Director Simpson? Anyone over here?
Yeah, I just wanted to just acknowledge your goals to the students, that your goals for the upcoming year really aligned what Director Leonard and I have been hearing, especially that idea of equity among schools. And I just had to kind of sit back and have a moment of pride, which I have often when we're talking with our students, because that idea of, you know, I'm not just thinking about myself, my school, but I'm thinking about my peers across the district, and that in both of the schools we met with, and at your, you know, your suggestion with your council that you met with, that idea of thinking of others and making sure that all of the students have an equitable education, have the same resources and experiences from school to school really came through strongly, and it just made me very proud, that idea of not just reflecting on myself, but thinking of others as well. So just wanted to thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Are there any other? Okay, Director Leonard.
Just want to add that we're going to be going to a number of high schools, probably most of them by, well, I would say it would be through the year, but I'll be done in April. But either way, that's what we'll be doing. Just want to just give everybody a heads up on that. Thank you.
You really don't have to keep bringing that up, you know.
Absolutely. Director Ferguson? You got it? Looks like it.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you, President Herndon. I just want to commend the students on their involvement and engagement with the superintendent and board directors. That's really cool. Those types of opportunities I don't think were around when I was a kid. So I think it's really cool that you guys are able to present your perspective on behalf of your classmates, and you're able to articulate the types of issues that you want us to give attention to and priority to. So I just want to say keep going, and thank you for your leadership.
Director Zumber.
Thank you, Chair Herndon. Just really quick, I love that you guys are talking about starting a newsletter. If you're comfortable sharing that with the board when it's up and running, I think we'd love to get a copy, just so that we can see what you all are talking about and what's important to you.
Anyone else? I'd simply, go ahead, please.
President Herndon, members of the board. I just wanted to say thank you to you guys because you're always so receptive to us and you always listen to us and you take into account the things we say. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that and for really working hard to include the student voice. And we really appreciate your commitment and your appreciation. So thank you.
I can say you are so welcome. And please do come back again because we would like to see those newsletters and hear more about what your recommendations are because after all, you are the adults for tomorrow and we want to hear from you to help you form that tomorrow. With that, we'll move ahead. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication?
This next communication is from the superintendent, is report with possible action on the MPS Foundation. This is an informational item, and although it was noticed for possible action, no action is required.
President Herndon, members of the board, Eduardo Galvan, interim superintendent. This month, the MPS Foundation will provide an update on its ongoing philanthropic efforts aimed at enhancing educational opportunities. As a nonprofit organization, the foundation is committed to promoting academic excellence, fostering community involvement, and working toward a more equitable education system. Through private philanthropy, the MPC Foundation supports a variety of initiatives designed to enrich the educational experience for students, teachers, and schools. The foundation's work is vital in shaping the future of education in the region and at times recognizing our leaders. I will now turn you over to Mr. Jude and Mr. Kersey. Mr. Jude, the director of MPS Foundation, to share his report.
President Herndon, members of the board, Willie Jude II, Executive Director of the MPS Foundation. First, I thank Interim Superintendent Galvan for this opportunity to share a brief report on behalf of the MPS Foundation. I would also like to thank John Kersey, our MPS Foundation Board Chair, who is present, Jackie Hurd Barber, Vice Chair, and our esteemed board for their leadership, service, and commitment to education, and most importantly, our children. As a proud graduate of Golda Meir, Samuel Morse Middle School, and Milwaukee Madison High School, or now James Madison Academic Campus, I am humbled for the privilege to be an advocate for public education and genuinely serve our students and our educators. There were teachers, principals, coaches, instructors, safety, staff, donors, and community members who believed in me and my siblings, so I appreciate the opportunity to pay it forward. This evening, I will share an update about the mission of the MPS Foundation, our focus areas, programs, and one feature partnership. And then we just have a few slides prepared, but we will move quickly. The first slide is describing our MPS Foundation team, which is fairly new but eager to make a difference. We have 3 individuals. We have Anita Alfaro, who is our Development and Donor Relations Manager, who began in August. We have Tracy Parrish, who is our Business Manager. We have myself, and then we also have an open position with our Program Analyst for Special Events, which was open due to an unfortunate passing of one of our team members on the second day of school. On the second day of school, Miss Vanessa Claypool. And so the team has been working together, and I thank everyone, the board members and our community for their patience and really rallying around us. But we look forward to what's next with our team. The MPS Foundation serves as a nexus between the schools and the community and is uniquely positioned as a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports Milwaukee Public Schools. As you see on the slide, the mission of the MPS Foundation is to inspire and motivate the community, including philanthropic partners, businesses, families, and former current staff, students, in support of Milwaukee Public Schools and the academic achievements of our students. Maybe I was reading too fast. Sorry, I use Mac. I'm sorry.
Just a few
that happens when you're going too
technical
slow.
Okay. They're coming back on. There we go.
We're okay.
And just for the record, I didn't tell him he had to go very fast. He's just doing that on his own.
Perfect. Thank you. And so the next two slides just discusses our one-pagers, really highlights from the past 2 years in 2023 and 2024. So through our fundraising efforts, we can provide resources and opportunities that enhance the educational experience for our students in Milwaukee Public Schools. Our current focus areas are as follows, and on your slides as well: college and career connections, high-impact programs, quality learning environment, and academic and teaching excellence. And so now I would just like to provide a few examples of the work that the MPS Foundation has done over the last 2 years. We've provided more than $250,000 in scholarships to 60 students from 13 high schools across the district. We've raised $100,000 for teachers, directly for teachers and schools through our Classroom Support Fund. And I'm excited because earlier this month, through our partnership with Donors Choose, we supported 122 classroom projects this year. And my emails have been filling up quite a bit with the thank you notes from all the students because of the range and the interest. But we know by investing in those who educate our children are really going to be able to really take care of our students in an amazing way. We've supported 24,000 students through learning journeys such as Discovery World, UWM, and the UWM Planetarium. We sent high school students, more than 25 this year, to the UWM School of Architecture and Urban Planning Summer Camp. 4,800 students have participated in United Nations Schools and Learning World Fair, which is all funded through private philanthropy. More than 1,200 students from 50 schools have participated in the annual STEM Fair, which is partnered through GE Healthcare and the MPS Foundation. In the last 2 years, through the generosity of Herb Cole Philanthropies, we have sent 800 students to Washington, D.C., 800 students to Washington, D.C., which was an amazing experience, and I was fortunate, as you can see in the slide, to be able to participate with 2 of the schools. We also raised and donated $160,000 to support 465 high school students from Bayview High School and Marshall High School through the Junior Achievement 3DE program for career readiness. The MPS Foundation has partnered with countless entities such as the Friends of Jimmy Banks Committee, City Year, Rockwell, Boys and Girls Club, Marcus Performing Arts Center, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Milwaukee Brewers, Green Bay Packers, MATC, UWM, and numerous others, just to provide countless opportunities for our children. Now, the next few slides are just for your packets that just show some of the pictures, because I can do this part all day, right? There's just a few things that we've directly been involved in. So you can see in the top right-hand corner, that's this year at our annual STEM Fair. We have our Celebration of Scholars, that you see a few of our board members with some of our recipients. There's programs that we support directly in school, like with the High School of the Arts, and we helped 75 individuals earn their citizenship this spring. So we're really doing a lot to really take care of our students, our schools, our educators, and their families. And this, a few slides from inside of the schools, and then also another one from the STEM Fair as well. And then here's a slide from Washington, D.C. You can see one of our donors, Annette Robinson and Mayor Johnson, at the Unzel Fair. And so there's so many things that we're doing. I can literally go through countless pictures, but sometimes you're working so hard, you forget all the work that's happening. And so we try to slow down and really capture the moments best as possible. But this is what energizes us every day. And so now we're moving on to the next slide, which is our feature partnership. And so our feature partnership revolves around the Let Us Play Greener, Healthier Schoolyard initiative, which is a collaboration between the MPS Foundation, Milwaukee Public Schools, Milwaukee Recreation, the Green Schools Consortium of Milwaukee, which is led by Reflow, Justin Hegarty, and his team. I know he is watching online, he and Lisa. The Greener, Healthier Schools Let Us Play initiative project transforms outdated and deteriorated outdoor schoolyards into dynamic and functional green spaces for MPS students and the neighborhood residents. These playgrounds increase access to quality shared public spaces that improve quality of life and educational outcomes. Since inception, 31 playgrounds have been completed, and with a total of 41 schools enrolled in the program. Therefore, approximately 3,000 students benefit every day, 14,000 students benefit on an annual basis, and 21,000 community members benefit for those playgrounds in those areas. So before I move on, I'd like to thank individuals such as the Green Bay Packers Foundation, Greater Milwaukee Foundation, Justin Hagerty, Lisa Neeb, and the Reflow team, Heather Dietzel, our facilities team, Megan Burke, Denise Fields, our grants team, our school leaders, teachers, community members, families for their effort towards this transformational program. There were so many individuals like Mr. Kersey alongside of me in committees who stepped up early because this is something that has been going on for a few years, right? And so one thing when I interviewed, when I saw this program and this initiative, it was exciting because a lot of the work that we do through scholarships, a lot of people aren't able to see it, but this is tangible about the impact and the work that we have in the lives of our students. And so now with this, I have a very special thank you to the Burke Foundation. The Burke Foundation seeks to make a difference in the lives of youth by investing in creative, well-conceived, and cost-effective educational opportunities that enhance and improve the character, quality, and access to education, the personal, social, and intellectual development of children and youth, and the educational and social quality community life. Founded by Dick Burke, the Burke Foundation has historically supported innovative opportunities and programs that improve urban education, youth and leadership development by focusing on the well-being of the youth and future leaders and addressing long-term viability in the changing of the community. And so with this, I am pleased to announce that the Burke Foundation has made a matching gift commitment of $1.5 million over the next 3 years to support the Greener, Healthier Schoolyards initiative through the MPS Foundation. And so, yes. And so we're grateful and also thank Director Garcia, who is here, who serves on the board as well with Mr. Galvan and all the opportunities and projects that we're pushing and we're really celebrating. But this one is a game changer. It's a game changer for our community because the gift is the match. And so we will be reaching out. You can reach out. Anyone who can hear my voice online, there is an opportunity to give and see the benefits of your giving. And so I thank again to Chris Dew, who is Executive Director, Kathleen Burke and Mary Burke, and the members of their board for investing in our students, having an unwavering support and continued generosity. We thank you for your urban education initiatives and youth leadership. And if there's anyone else that I've missed, I thank them as well. So in conclusion, I would like to reiterate the MPS Foundation's unwavering mission centered around the pursuit of equitable opportunities for every student, for every teacher, for our schools, our support staff, and the families within our community. It is our role to cultivate a culture of philanthropy to ensure our students and staff have access to a quality education, resources, and opportunities required to create a bright future. Again, I thank you all for your leadership and genuine desire to improve our community through education. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have not made your gift to support the children, it is not too late. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. John Kersey if he has any comments, and that will conclude my report.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say how lucky we are at the foundation to have Willie as our top guy. He's phenomenal. You see what he can do tonight. This is what he does every day, even when there's no cameras. But I wanted to thank you. You know, we started this thing a long time ago, and you guys have made an investment in us. And I think it's important that we come and we show you how your investment did, and I think we did pretty well. I think, you know, in my view, people want to do the right thing, and a lot of people my age went to MPS and are having had a different experience than they're having now due to a lot of the financial restrictions. And I just think it's fair that the same opportunities we got, we should try to provide to our kids. And that's kind of the driving force behind this, and also to really help support our teachers, because and I know nobody loves this idea here of teachers having to go into their own pockets to fund classroom projects, and so we're trying to do our part, and it's an easy sell. People want to do the right thing, and I think we're the vehicle that can provide that to them. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we certainly appreciate all that you do. Those playgrounds are exceptional, and I would say to anyone in the city that has not visited one, because we have had the services of the redevelopment teams and Reflow especially out there doing the hard work, and they're exceptional. The most recent one I attended was Samuel Morse. And that is huge, including a football field. So for anyone that's out driving around and want to get a little exercise when school is not in, visit Morse or one of the many other redeveloped sites. But that one happens to be quite large. That's why I mentioned it. And I always mention Brian because they got the space. We just need the funding to get the job done. I'll throw that in. Anyways, are there any remarks from our directors up here? Director O'Halloran.
I'll keep it moving. I just wanted to say how deeply grateful I am as a parent for the MPS Foundation. You have improved, I have a student at Reagan, so that, you were able to engage philanthropic partners to help with that whole expansion, and it is just gorgeous. Other schools within my district have also benefited from the work, and so I'm deeply grateful. And I also want to say, I think the Madison Foundation, I think they have 14 staff members. So to do what you do with a small but mighty team, I just want to say thank you. So if I were to share how somebody could make their year-end donation, where should I direct them? From one executive director to another. Put the plug in, please.
Yes, Director O'Halloran, President Herndon, members of the board, Willie Jude, MPS Foundation. There are a few ways. I will come to your house and pick up the gift in the snow if needed. But you can go online to mpsfdn.org, and we have a landing page. You just click the donate button, and you can choose your gift. And that's the great thing. You can direct your gift. So if you're not sure, you should always support your high school. Madison High School is always a great option. I said that out loud. Yes. But you can direct your gift to the initiatives. We'll have a drop-down menu as well. We have checks. We have HCH. We have IRD, Remainder Trust. We can accept it in quite a few ways, but the simplest way is to go online. You can make your contribution, or you can send it to 234 West Galena Street, right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53212, right next door to Golda Meir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Director Garcia.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that I'm deeply grateful for the exceptional leadership and the unwavering support that the foundation provides to the district. As a proud board member, I have witnessed firsthand the impact of the foundation on our district, in our schools, in the classrooms. So the foundation's dedication to enhancing education, providing essential resources, and fostering excellence is truly inspiring. Their collaboration with our district has created opportunities and has empowered both educators and students. So thank you for your steadfast commitment to our mission. Your efforts are making a significant difference, and I'm honored that you join us on this journey of ensuring that all students have equitable opportunities for success.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Meeting's gone long enough.
Thank you.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board with respect to this item?
No motion is necessary. We can go on to the next one.
Okay. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication?
Madam President, the next communication from the superintendent is action on a request to approve the district's appointment to the Social Development Commission Board. The recommendation is that the board appoint Michael Harris as its representative on the Social Development Commission Board to be effective December 20th, 2024. This item has been noticed for possible closed session.
Will the superintendent please present this item?
President Herndon, members of the board, Eduardo Galvan, interim superintendent. Tonight, the administration requests your approval of this item, designating an SDC representative. If you have any questions, I have Mr. Boswell here, who is our current representative in an expiring term, if you should have any questions.
Do board members have any questions or comments? Director O'Halloran.
Hi, thanks. So with a term expiration, what is the duration of the term?
President Herndon, Director O'Halloran, Matthew Boswell, Senior Director of Department of Student Services. So there are 2-year terms. I have had the pleasure, and I like to thank the board, to serve and represent MPS for 4 years. So the first term would be 2 years, and then it repeats after that.
Any more follow-up? No. Do board members have any questions or comments? Additionally, if not, what is the pleasure of board with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of administration's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Ferguson,
Aye.
Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Leonard,
Nay.
Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Seamson,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
President Herndon.
Aye.
That is 7 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the board clerk, chief officer, and officer of board governance?
Madam President, there are 7 communications from the Office of Board Governance. The first communication is the monthly report with possible action from the board clerk, chief officer, Office of Board Governance. The recommendation is that the board determines how it wishes to proceed relative to the legislative agenda. The remainder of the report is informational, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the Office of Board Governance please present this item?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Tina Owen Moore, Chief Officer, Office of Board Governance. It's a great opportunity to share some of the insights from the Office of Board Governance the past couple of months. I am going to focus on 3 things. The report is attached, but I am going to focus on the superintendent search process, the communications and digital efficiency tonight. As you all know very well, and I am saying this as much for the public as for anyone else, the superintendent search process, the window has been reopened. Our office is helping the board with that search process. And as such, I want to highlight all of the great things that we saw tonight, because I imagine many superintendent candidates are out there and watching. And what a great example of the amazing things happening in MPS between our students, the foundation, and all of the things that we heard tonight. So I do hope that people are listening and considering applying to the district. That process we're still hoping to find a superintendent by July 1st, to start by July 1st. So the timeline has not been extended past that. Just opening the window to gather a deeper slate of candidates. So our office will continue to support those needs. The other thing that's been a big focus for our office and our support for the board this month is communications. And so a big part of the role of board members, as you know very well, is communications outward and also to receive communications. So we have been doing a lot of work in trying to understand how best to support the needs, to help support the transparency and trust that our community has been asking for. So one of the things that we've done this month is meet with almost all of our press partners. We're still reaching out to a few more to have one-on-one conversations and to understand what they need from us and to help them understand what you need from them as well. And so this has been something that we spent a good deal of time on, but I think it's been a really important part of the work in developing that two-way communication and with helping our community see what's going on. You also know that we are doing our fast facts and sending those out and our press releases, and working really hard with our communications team, who I see a couple of out here tonight. The other thing that has been a big lift that we have been working on as a team in our office is the digital efficiency, and this is something that's really important for the district too. So in part of that communications piece, the office moved to digital newsletters in the past month, and I think you all sent out your first digital newsletters this month, and it's been fun to watch as those go out and see how many people are opening them and reading that information and hopefully getting the communications they need. I encourage you all also, you can share those on your personal social media platforms easily as well. So if you don't know how to do that yet, since this is new, I will be happy to share that with you. And we have also been working with DPI and our compliance partners in our Office of Accountability, Administration, in helping to make sure the CAP moves forward and all the pieces are done that need to happen. So before I pass it off for questions from the board, I'm also going to invite Chris Thiel, our Legislative Policy Manager, to share his update on the upcoming agenda.
Thank you very much. President Herndon, members of the board, Chris Thiel, Office of Governmental Relations. Just a quick update this evening, and we have the attached proposed legislative agenda for Milwaukee Public Schools for review. We're in that time of year where property tax bills are showing up, and as we've discussed many times here, and as I'm sure you've received questions, when people are asking why are so many school districts going to referenda, the pretty straightforward answer is because the state is not supporting students with disabilities in anywhere close of a manner that we need to. The reimbursement rate for special education has actually now fallen to 29%. And as you know, if the state does not provide that funding, then school districts have to. So over the years, essentially what is going on with the record number of referenda is because the state is not funding students with disabilities, school districts are compelled to go to referendum, and we are where we are. So I've been asked, Chris, you say a lot of different things. Could you just simplify it? What's the main driver? And I think the main driver is that underfunding of education. And I'd like to say thank you to this board again for the continued leadership, literally marching to Madison over the years and continuing to push this issue, because I think that leadership has been important, again, in helping others really see that simple fact. We have a state superintendent who's proposed 75% and then 90% reimbursement for public schools. And if we actually had that, it would put us all in a much, much better position. And the need to go to referendum again would be greatly diminished, if not eliminated, for many districts, and therefore the need to have these referenda and the related property taxes would be eliminated. So the very simple, smart thing the state could do would be to actually fund at that 90% level. And we're in this transition as we head into the next state budget season, where we're really trying to clarify the record as to what happened with the last state budget. And we've heard different phrases out there and different numbers have been presented. But when you peel back, and I think we are all going to have to help people understand this. We have a lot of new legislators. We have many citizens who are showing up to this conversation for the first time. Governor Evers, in the last state budget, his last state budget proposal, put forward a $2.6 billion plan. Ultimately, what was actually provided to education was a little over $600 million. As we've talked about $590 million went to a school levy tax credit. Wisconsin Policy Forum again said last week, school districts can't spend that money. But even with that, because of the substantial increase in voucher funding, when you peel back the amount of state aid that was taken off the top, at the end of the day, I think, and we're working on these final numbers, of that $2.6 billion proposal the governor put forward, right around $500 million, or maybe a couple million less than that, is what ultimately showed up for public schools. So just peeling that back, trying to simplify the language, I think, as Dr. Owen Moore mentioned, communication, really trying to distill these things is going to be part of the effort over the next couple of weeks, because people are hearing there was X amount of funding, and the reality is only this much came to schools, and that is why, whether you're in Fort Atkinson or Milwaukee or Madison or wherever, so many school districts have gone to referendum. So the efforts involved transitioning here to the proposed legislative agenda, that agenda is in keeping essentially with what we have done in the past to continue to push forward to achieve those goals. So we presented here tonight for your review. As we always say, this is a living document. People will have a chance to take a look at that. But we can make additions to it or edits to it as the board sees fit, and we can bring that forward again. But essentially, this agenda will continue to push forward, and we're very pleased again that we have so many partners working with us to hopefully make sure that we've got a budget next year that meets the needs of our students. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board members? Directors, Somber.
Thank you, President Herndon. I see in the legislative priority document, we're talking about voucher and charter school tax transparency. And I noticed this year the tax levy insert that we've had in previous years was missing. Do we know how we get that back in?
President Herndon, directors on board, because there was a 12-year phase-out of the relationship between the voucher tax in Milwaukee and that tax insert, we came to the end of that 12-year phase-out. So the Milwaukee program is now, the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program is now funded with general purpose revenue dollars. So there is no longer that relationship with us. We do, however, continue to have voucher tax impact continues to be the case for us for the special needs scholarship program. So there is a $13 million deduction of our aid that then the board, like other boards do, you either have to cut programs for kids or you fill in that hole. So that special needs scholarship program phenomenon is now there. So we could address that with the city if we like. Another thing we may want to pursue is clarifying if you received your property tax bill, you get the comptroller's document. And right now, because there is so much money that's put in the school levy tax credit, there is not, this is not anything to do with the comptroller, but state law. There's not really an honest look at what the actual net levy is related to Milwaukee Public Schools. So as we discussed last month, you really need to take $73 million off of that MPS levy to let people know what the total amount they're actually paying is. So we could move forward and see if the city is interested in, again, to help clarify those two items, if the board would like. But we did come to an end with the Milwaukee Parental Choice piece. I think another issue, though, that will be very significant in this upcoming budget discussion is the term is being used, decoupling the funding mechanism for the voucher program statewide. In 2015, the payment method was created that exists now, and it does create a voucher tax for other districts. At the end of the last session, there was this proposal to 100% fund out of state coffers the voucher program, but that will have long-term tax implications in a different way, because if a significant amount, and we're talking increases down the line here that I think, and as frankly the Wisconsin Association School Board Convention happens and the delegation gathers, there is an item there related to decoupling. And I think the level of knowledge around that issue probably needs to be increased because, like in other states, Arizona, Florida, other places, where you see the first cut of funding going to private schools, then whatever is left is only available for public schools. So I think we really want to have people fully informed before they make decisions about how that plays out. And that will be, even though Milwaukee is treated in a different way now, at one time we had a $50 million plus voucher tax here. So certainly that has had an impact over the years. But we, I think, as a public education group writ large, need to be careful about some of these policies and what the impact would be.
Any follow-up?
Yes, thank you, President Herndon. I'm glad you brought up the decoupling, because I think a few of us who are going to be delegates maybe could use some talking points. It did come up in the pre-meetings, and there was definitely a lot of confusion around it, and I think if you can connect with us before that, it would be really helpful for us to talk through that.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'd like to pass the gavel to Director Gokul Gandhi.
Sure, President Herndon.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. For clarifications, up till now, there was the insert in my tax bill, and you mentioned that something was discontinued. Is that what was discontinued, so that you could readily see what MPS was getting versus the MPCP or the choice program?
Mr. Thiel.
President Herndon, correct. For many years before the program was statewide, there was a significant annual voucher tax impact that nobody knew existed because the state didn't publish anything on it, and nobody ever declared anything about it. And so we were in a situation 15 years ago or so where $50 to $55 million of what this board would levy was actually being levied to support private schools, but obviously because nobody declared that anywhere, and you don't see that on your tax bill, people were simply unaware that this board was being compelled to do that. If you didn't do that, you would be cutting $50 million worth of support for students. That is the place that the board was in. So we worked with the Common Council and the Comptroller's Office to get that insert created, so at least when people would open up their blue envelope, they would see this document and ask, at least if they didn't immediately understand, could ask a question, what's going on here, and then we would explain that. And I think part of that transparency is what compelled an agreement to phase out what clearly was this unfair voucher tax in the city of Milwaukee. So that phase out was over a 12-year period of time, and that has now concluded, so that there is not that. For the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program, again, there is not that voucher tax implication anymore. For the Special Needs Scholarship Voucher Program, we have a $13 million issue that was not part of that original levy insert.
Thank you very much, because there were school board members, MPS school board members at that time that were participants, and those like myself from the community that were participants in putting the pressure on the Common Council to put those inserts in. So yesterday, I was, okay, there's my bill, where's that insert, because I wanted to see what the damage was, and to my surprise, it wasn't there. Thank you. Any more questions?
Well, I have the gavel, so.
Okay.
Are you looking for the gavel back?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, Director Garcia.
Yes. First of all, thank you for the work that you do in making sure that our priorities are, brought to the surface of, the folks making decisions of resource allocation. I just wanted to highlight the fact that not only is there a decline in the special ed reimbursement rate, but I know our point number 4 also, that there has been a decrease in reimbursement rate for what has been termed bilingual and bicultural aid. So at one point it was 18%, then it was dropped to 8%, we're currently at 4%. So can you just share a little bit more about, what that implication means, and specifically for our district with a very much growing population of English language learners and a strong focus in, especially with our seal of biliteracy, just anything that has to do with bilingual education, I think is worth elevating, especially to our listening audience, and to, that's one of our focuses programmatically, but also like what the challenges mean from a funding standpoint.
Mr. Thiel.
President Herndon, Director Garcia, thank you for bringing that up. There are 3 issues that were specified in the Vincent versus Voigt lawsuit in 2001, where the state Supreme Court said you must not only provide a sound basic education for students, but you must recognize funding in these 3 areas, and those are support for students challenged by poverty, support for students with disabilities, and support for English learners in the state of Wisconsin. And to your point, not only is it a funding issue, but it's a policy design issue, and there have been several attempts over the years to put forward a better policy to support students in this area. Right now, it's a little bit convoluted. You have to have a certain number of students, X, Y, Z. And I am not prepared to quote the number, but we have well over 50 languages spoken in the district, and it's higher. I'm not going to go higher because I don't want to misstate, but I think we could go 10 or 20 higher than that. And that's in Green Bay as well. And that's in, cities like Madison and Racine. So I think sometimes I also think, well, this is just a Milwaukee issue. We have many languages, incredible, diversity of language in our school system. And obviously, making sure we're supporting students from all those language groups is key. So this is an area that really has been given short shrift by the state. It just is really something that, we focus a lot on poverty, we focus a lot on special education, but this is also a significant commitment that our schools and our districts and our teachers make to students. And as you mentioned, this continues to be funded at we have been in the past last in the nation, and we may well be there again right now. We've had expert testimony on that. So that is something we do push for, and that is something we also try to align with some rural districts. There are districts out there, people are like, oh, this is just a big urban issue, and then they don't understand that whether in the southwest part of the state or, different areas, you have school districts of all sizes that need this support for their students. So this is, again, a top issue for us, and we'll continue to pursue funding for it.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Nope, just thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Okay, with that, Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
Before we move on, the board can either take action on this item now to approve the 25-26 legislative agenda. I also know that it was posted a little late, but it sounds like everybody got a good chance to review it. So
Director Gokul Gandhi.
I move to approve the 25-26 legislative agenda.
Second?
Second.
Director O'Halloran. Oh, Director Leonard.
On Director Gokul-Kandi's motion to approve the proposed 25-26 legislative agenda, Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Kandi.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
President Herndon.
Aye.
That is 8 ayes, the motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next communication from Office of Board Governance?
The second communication is action on a request to retire to closed session to confer with legal counsel with respect to pending or probable litigation. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session to consider this item.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The third communication is action on a request to retire to closed session relative to the status of an employee. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session to consider this item.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The fourth communication is action on a request to retire to closed session relative to demands for collective bargaining. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session to consider this item.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The fifth communication is action on a request to retire to closed session relative to an employee who disregarded a board directive and legal advice. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session to consider this item.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The sixth communication is consideration of and possible action on performance evaluation data relative to the interim superintendent of schools. The recommendation is that the board determine how it wishes to proceed. This item has been noticed for closed session.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The seventh communication is consideration of and possible action on performance evaluation data relative to an employee. The recommendation is that the board determine how it wishes to proceed. This item has been noticed for closed session.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the agenda. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency?
There is one communication from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. The first report is the monthly report with possible action on activities within the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the report?
Thank you, Chair Herndon. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. That report is before you. Just a quick update on the CAP progress. One of the challenges that the district and the finance team has had with the delay in financial reporting is having to live in 3 different fiscal years concurrently, fiscal year 23, fiscal year 24, and fiscal year 25. So I'm going to kind of bracket my updates in each of them. The first is that with respect to FY23, we updated the project tracker today. That was to reflect as much progress as has been made on that front. We are very close to wrapping up FY23. Any activities that are not complete in this fiscal year are anticipated to be completed in January. That will be a significant milestone to have that completed. We can then focus our attention on planning that has already taken place for the audited financials for FY24. And I want to mention, too, that as we have made investments in improving the systems and the processes to help mitigate ever returning to this space again, one of the FY25 deliverables was our certified budget data that was due in December. And I'm pleased to say that that was submitted and certified to DPI. So I think that speaks to the momentum that we have as it relates to the CAP. And I look forward to continuing the work with OBG and the administration. With that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Guy for the monthly audit update.
Good evening, President Herndon, members of the board. Paul Geib, OE Audit Services. Just wanted to highlight 3 items quickly. Wanted to thank Chair Garcia, members of the AFP committee for the questions from the presentation this week on the retiree life and health insurance audit. We also just conducted the opening conference for the fleet services audit with FMS management team. So I'm looking forward to bringing the results of that review to the committee in the coming months. And finally, just wanted to note that we are well on our way to completing the annual audit plan goals as we hit the 6th month here. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Do board members have questions or comments of this item? Thank you. With that, Madam Secretary, what is our next item of business?
The next item is action on reports of the independent hearing officers of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors, student expulsions.
The chair will entertain a motion to accept, modify, or reject the reports of the independent hearing officers of the dates and times listed in our agenda. Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of the reports as attached.
Second.
Director Gokul-Gandhi. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the reports of the independent hearing officers as attached, Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
President Herndon.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes. The motion passes.
We will now have the reports of the standing committees. Since public hearing was given at the committee meetings, the board, as is customary, will not be given public hearing on these reports this evening. Madam Secretary, what is the first report?
The first report is that of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. No items of this report have been set aside for separate considerations.
Do any board members wish any items to be set aside? Moving ahead, Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next item is report of the Committee on Parent and Community Engagement. Sorry, that's it.
Okay. Do board members wish any items to be set aside? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
Item 7 is report with possible action on the MPS Equity Guidebook that has been set aside at the request of Director Leonard.
Okay.
From the report on the Student Achievement and School Innovation Committee.
Are there any other items board members wish to set aside? May I have a motion to approve the balance of the committee reports? Director Seamson.
I move that we approve the balance of the committee reports.
A second?
Second?
Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Simpson's motion to approve the balance of the committee's reports, Director Ferguson,
Aye.
Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
President Herndon.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, the motion passes.
Before we continue with our agenda, on behalf of the board, Director O'Halloran, would you like to do your speech?
So I know we have a small audience today, but if you are listening or watching from home, thank you so much to everyone who is receiving a promotion or are newly hired to bring their talents to serve the students, community, and staff here at Milwaukee Public Schools. Thank you so much. Go forth and do great things.
Okay, welcome, welcome. Madam Secretary, what is the first item set aside?
The first item set aside is from the Committee on Student Achievement and School Innovation. Item 7, report with possible action on the MPS Equity Guidebook. Your committee reports having received this report, although it was noticed for possible action, no action is required. This item was set aside at the request of Director Leonard.
Director Leonard, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I have actually a few comments. So I pulled this item to clarify concerns brought to me by my attention from both external and internal groups of people. Obviously, some of that was some letters were given to us, but I've received a lot more information than just that. First of all, I was very concerned about the numerous technical errors, links that are non-responsive, outdated information. So just the technical quality of the report itself is just unacceptable. And I think we have to just do much better. So I have to bring that up to our attention. We are a school board, a board of education, so we should be presenting things in order that they work. And I just think that has to be discreetly taken care of. When confronting this, I also discovered that there was a very little collaboration that were garnered to get the input from this with regard to this equity report. It bothers me to no end that we are not understanding the need to create a much greater level of collaboration. And that would include with our students, with staff members, the community for the past 4 years when it comes to disproportionality and equity have pretty much been screaming at us, expecting a lot more from us, and I think they deserve it. So when we come down to, and I'm not expecting that we're going to rewrite this report. I just don't see a need for that, but I think that, number one, from here on in, I do not understand why we do not receive rough drafts of information at this level so that as board directors, we can actually give some input before we get a final copy that we actually vote on. I'm not seeing why there's a disconnect from me personally. There's a better way to handle this, and it's better to give us that information so we can look at something and get back before it ever gets on the board floor and say, hey, I have concerns about this and all the other things that are bothering us about it, so that by the time it gets to the board floor, we have a pretty well-finished copy of what we want to look at. I am also going to strongly suggest that we make sure that from here on in, we make sure that we get the input from as many staff members as possible. Because some people that are complaining feel that they did not have a chance to really give input to the equities guidebook itself, which concerns me. I'm not going to bring this up in detail here. I'm not trying to offend anybody on this, but I think we need to be straightforward. We're board directors. We're here for accountability. Part of that accountability is to make sure that we're following through on expectations that have been given to us by both the community and even our own staff members that want to see a better job. And I know we can do better. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to go any further than that. Thank you very much. It's just comments that I wanted to make, and I will leave it there.
Would the administration like to make comments on this item?
President Herndon, Director Leonard, members of the board, Again, this item came up earlier in the year. We did set it aside. Director Leonard, we did have listening sessions. We did invite the public. There was numerous opportunities for anybody who wanted to make comment to be there, to participate. There was opportunities either in person, to mail it in, to call it in. You know, I'm not making excuses here, but short of, I don't know what else we could have done to gather any community input. Everybody was invited. Turnout wasn't great, I'll be honest about that, but it wasn't for lack of effort. There was different dates. Again, just to reiterate, there was in-person options. People could have mailed in. They could have accessed this. This document was out there and live, and people could have given feedback at any time. And there was a large amount of time there. It was communicated. The board made it very clear that they wanted this to be done, so we did everything we could to make this open and available to anybody who wanted to make comment, anybody who wanted to give feedback. Again, this is a document that will continue to be adjusted. As we mentioned back in, and forgive me, I think it was September or in October when this first came forward. This is a document that, again, when it was initially asked for 4 or 5 years ago, it was prepared, it was presented, it was then that this began to change, which is wonderful. It's a great thing. And we've made those adjustments along the way, and we'll continue to do so. As to some of the technical difficulties, there are some issues with some of the links that were created because some of those documents are available only internally. So we're working on making sure that those that can be made available externally are there, but the majority of those links are active and are live, and we'll be happy to correct any technical errors or errors of any other kind, but those technical errors, that's what those were. We're working on getting those. And again, this was available for anybody who wanted to participate in it. It was made very, very clear that that was available, so I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you very much. Is there any follow-up?
Yes, there is. So I don't know where the disconnect is. I know you're saying that. I understand that. I don't always see that being the process, and I just have to be bluntly honest about this. So when I have people telling me they were not given the opportunity, I'm not sure, and I will agree that a lot of people don't show up for these meetings. Either we have to advertise it better, or we have to find a way to make sure we generate that interest. I mean, just less than 2 weeks ago, I generated an open meeting. We had over 50 people showing up. So I believe there is ways that we can do this. But I do have to just argue, there's a disconnect when it comes to seeing a document and being told that everybody had these opportunities. I don't know if we have to do a more direct effort. I know that if I were a boss, I guess, in the private sector, that's what I would do. I would be making a more direct effort. And if they're not being honest with me, I can't say much more about that. They're coming to me, and they're making these types of complaints. I don't need to say more than that, I would assume. Thank you.
Administration.
Again, Director Leonard, President Herndon, Director Leonard, members of the board, you know, whatever these individuals are or these groups, you can certainly, you know, provide them my information. We can see why they didn't participate. We can ask them what their specific concerns are and what we can do to address those. Again, we did publish this. We did share it with schools. It was in Thursday updates. It was, you know, again, very well communicated out to the community. There were 2 different nights, and again, just to reiterate, you didn't have to do it in person. You know, these were available. The document was available. Input was readily asked for, and anybody that wanted to do that. And I agree, Director Leonard. Maybe sometimes people don't take advantage of those opportunities. Again, we can still listen to whatever they have to say, and as we continue to work on this as a living document, when there's time to make adjustments, we can certainly take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Garcia.
Yeah, so my comment was more on, you know, it's in the title. So this is a working document, a living document, you know, and I think to Director Leonard, thank you for bringing those concerns up. But I guess for administration, because it's a living document and there's already been, pre-work that has been done, significant work, whether or not people chose to plug in or not, the pathways were made for them to do so. So what are the opportunities moving forward? Like, what does that opportunities to plug in look like, in 2025?
Administration.
President Herndon, Director Garcia, members of the board. Again, first, if those concerns come to you, please collect them and send them my way. We'll make sure that when it's an appropriate time to address them or to clarify what the misconceptions may be, we'll certainly work towards that, and we'll continue to do this on a periodic basis when it's appropriate.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, so I would just say maybe that's something that can be brought up at the SASE meeting, like if this needs to be like one more community session, maybe invite the folks that, have been in contact with you, Director Leonard. Maybe there's more folks that are listening right now that are now even more interested in getting involved. So I just want to make sure that we leverage this interest so that we don't have this perceived notion that we're not open to feedback.
Thank you very much. Any more questions or comments? Director Simpson.
Yeah, I just wanted to share at the SASE committee meeting when this item was presented, it was really nice and beneficial to have some of the actual groups present and share specifically how their work connected to the equity guidebook. And I think that there's power in that, so when people are wondering about, what does this equity work look like? What does it mean? Who's involved in the work? How can they participate? I think having those groups present at SASE is really powerful. And I know that's something that we've asked for, that I know in the past we've kind of had everybody present at the end of the year. And I know it was really beneficial that night to hear from 2 specific groups. And I think sprinkling that in the SASE committee is helpful and provides that opportunity to give input at a really basic level in terms of what that work is looking like and how can I get involved and how can I voice, my thoughts about it. So I think that's one way to go through it. I think, having an update, come back in a few months, before the end of the year or early next year also would be beneficial. Just, this is what we've done. Here's an update on some of the work that's happening. I think just, hearing from groups, having the book, having it brought back to the committee and just providing opportunities to really highlight the specific work that's being done. Because I know in the past, I didn't feel that when I looked at the guidebook. I didn't feel that input from each of those groups, and kind of having that highlighted or showcased was helpful. So I think more of that would be great.
Thank you. Are there any more? Oh, Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. So just Googling Milwaukee Public Schools Equity Guidebook brings up, I think it was advertised in the Milwaukee Times weekly newspaper. It was advertised on Facebook, and I currently see that it's still on the MPS website, seeking feedback and input on it. There is a link within there, that it noticed the Wednesday, September 11th and Wednesday, September 18th sessions, but there is a link on there, and it looks like the link is still active to provide feedback online. And so I was just wondering if somebody is listening and they were like, what? I didn't know about that. I don't get that newspaper. I'm not on Facebook. Like, if they were to go to this very easily searchable Milwaukee Public Schools Equity Guidebook landing page, would they be able to give their feedback now, so that it's on our radar and we can incorporate it into whatever session? If it comes back to SASE next month, next year, it is already there. So is that link still active, and are you receptive of that feedback?
Administration.
President Herndon, Director O'Halloran, yes, it is still active, and yes, we would be happy to look at it, and when there's an appropriate time, we'll make those adjustments and communicate those out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? Oh, Dr. Mims Howell.
President Herndon, members of the committee, Jennifer Mimsal, Chief Academic Officer. I think there's two things that I want to say about this. The next steps to the equity guidebook, we listened to the revisions and the comments that were made by board members. I met with several of you and you gave me your feedback. I also did send a personal invitation to each one of you to be a part of it. So I do appreciate those who gave feedback. As you said, Director O'Halloran, that link is still available, and Mr. Galvan also said anything that ever needs to be changed, we can definitely do that. The next step portion of the presentation that we did the other night talks about the parent and community sessions that we will be holding this second semester. So there's always an opportunity. Even since the guidebook has been out there, I have received many calls and emails regarding things that people would like added, things people are saying, no, it's not there, and Mr. Galvan stated that correctly. We have things that are inside of our MPS firewall that aren't necessarily accessible on the public side, so we will be working on those to make those available. I've also received copyright concerns. I've also received photo concerns. So everything that I've received, we are working on those in revisions, and I've been working with communications to make sure some of those things that are egregious that need to be taken down quickly have been. We also have received information from student groups. There were student groups who did submit things. There were teachers who did projects around the certain parts of the equity guidebook. In my one-on-ones with the directors that presented to you, as well as Dr. Karush Hassani, who also presented, we've been talking about ways we can get parents more involved with the use of that book, how it can be used in classrooms, and then, like we talked about, it's a living document making it come to life. It was very clear to us when we did present in June of last year, but also more appropriate and very transparent in what you said in September, was that it can't just be a piece of paper. It just can't be there. So we appreciate all the feedback that we had. And Director Simpson was one of the first people to say, hey, these links aren't really working. We tried to give her some content to look at. But you're right, people look at some of the things like, hey, this looks interesting. Can I click? Oh, I can't, it goes away. So we do want to be very responsive to all the constituents that you guys represent, as well as the things that have been shared with us. So Mr. Galvan said it correctly. Anything that you feel needs to be changed, he'll take those comments. We'll make the changes. And then when we have our community sessions, we're going to pair with a couple other departments so we can do very similar to what you saw on stage, Director Simpson, show them how to use it in the classroom, in the community. Restorative practices was just one example, but we definitely want to make sure we do it with the other ones as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any follow-up? Are there any more comments or questions from the board? With that, Madam Secretary, are there any items of regular business?
Yes, there are two items of regular business. Item 1 is the reports of the board's delegates. The first report is report of the board's delegate to the District Advisory Council.
So that report is before you, but I would actually just want to go off of, I feel like I'm echoing, but anyway, so I just want to mention the attendance. That was the approximately 50 people showed up. Quite a few of you were here. I want to thank some of the board directors who stuck around. I really do know it was a long night for you, and I appreciate that. I also want to thank all the parents and community groups and different staff members for your engagement and constructive responses. I have pages of information that's been compiled. And I would not go over that report right now, but I'm going to request that we do a formal summary of the report at the next PACE meeting in January. So that would have to be put something on the agenda. I do not know how to do that. I do not know those formalities at all, but that's what I'm requesting. And then I would most likely be, and I talked to Ms. Stone already and asked that we have someone from the DAC that actually could help, along with myself, to do some of the presenting of our findings from that safety meeting. And I just want to mention that I am getting requests from a number of people that love the idea, and they're looking forward to us running more community-type meetings like that with different topics that directly relate to MPS. I will not say more than that. I just said, yep, I think that's great. Let me first get this one done, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, thank you, everyone. I really appreciated your support on that.
Thank you very much. What is the next report?
The next report is report of the board's delegate to CISA number 1.
That report is attached. Happy to answer questions to the best of my ability.
Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next report is report of the board's delegate to the library board.
That report is before you. Please reach out with any questions.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
There are no other reports at this time, unless any delegates have reports.
Oh, Director Garcia.
It's not a report, just a reminder. So the WASB State Convention is 33 days away. So I just wanted to bring that to folks' attention. I know Director Zambor and Director Leonard will be representing as delegates. I will be in attendance as well during the duration of that conference. And during that time, I think that MPS plugs into that event to showcase, some of our educational offerings. So it's always a good opportunity for us to show off, just all of the amazingness and magic that happens in our district. So no report, just a remark. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, what is the next item of regular business?
Monthly report of the president of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors, and this is your report.
Okay. I would like to say that I did not have time to do the report, but it's forthcoming. However, I did receive an email this afternoon from one of the schools in District 1, and it was recommended that I read it to the board. It starts with, "Hello, President Herndon. It was wonderful to see you at our school's holiday program on Tuesday. I would like to say hello in person, but time just didn't allow. I'm writing today because I wanted to let you know about some good news for River Trail. This week, I was named the Wisconsin Agriculture in the Classroom Teacher of the Year of 2024. Let's give Mr. Gonzalez a hand. He goes on to say, this accomplishment is reflective of the hard work and dedication of our entire staff to our agriculture program. Also, I wanted to say thanks to you, especially because this program is only here because of the support you have given to get it off the ground. We would have never been able to move this program forward without you. Your hard work set the foundation for the agriculture program, and it is literally and figuratively beginning to bear fruit. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful holiday season." And I wanted to read that because they had worked so terribly hard to get recognized as River Trail School of Agriculture. And they are officially, for the audience of feeder school to Vincent High School of Agriculture. So, and we're only one such setup in the state, and everybody should be proud because everyone had a hand in making that happen over the last couple of years. The other part of the update is they're looking to try to find some sheep. Some sheep they want to do like Vincent. Their feeder school to Vincent got to add to the farm animals. So here we go. But the audience needs to know that we have that excellent program going, and they're fully at it. They have fruit trees and vegetables and all sorts of things, and chickens, and now they want to add the sheep, and the kids are having a ball. That's it for me.
Maybe we could add that as a foundation link.
I think so. Okay, Madam Secretary, is there any unfinished business before the board?
We have no items of unfinished business.
Okay, Madam Secretary, are there any items of new business?
We have one item of new business, action on a request to reconsider previous action relative to the approval of the October 2024 administrative appointments. The administration is requesting that the board reconsider its action of October 2024 relative to the approval of administrative appointments. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and limited-term employment contracts as listed in the attachments to the item, including the correction to the LTE title.
Very well, we will first need a motion to reconsider the board's action of October 24, 2024 relative to the approval of administrative appointments. May I have that motion? Director Simpson.
I move that we move this item for, or open this item up for reconsideration.
Thank you. With that, Madam Secretary,
Second?
a second, please. Director Garcia.
Second?
On Director Simpson's motion to reconsider the board's previous action of 2024 relative to the administrative appointments. Shall I call it? Would you like
Okay.
me to call the roll on that, or would you
Yes,
like
please
administration?
call the roll. I
Okay.
thought somebody else was raising their hand.
Director Ferguson?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Zomber?
Aye.
President Herndon?
Aye.
That is 8 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, does the administration have any new information to present?
I believe they passed on that one. Go ahead.
President Herndon and members of the board, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. For clarity, we wanted to make a correction with one of the LTEs identified as a Title IX investigator. He is a lead Title IX investigator, and we wanted to clarify that he is working in that capacity versus the other Title IX investigators that we have.
Thank you. Do board members have questions or comments on this item? If not, what is the pleasure of the board with respect to the request to adopt the revised attachment? Director O'Halloran.
I move that we approve the administrative appointment list, the revised administrative appointment list as attached.
Okay, a second?
Second.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the revised administrative appointment list, Director Ferguson?
Aye.
Director Garcia? Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Zomber?
Aye.
President Herndon?
Aye.
That is 8 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, are there any communications for referral to committee?
No, Madam President, we have no communications.
Madam Secretary, are there any resolutions for referral?
Madam President, we have 2 resolutions for referral. The first is Resolution 2425R-006 by Director Gokul Gandhi on professional development for Act 20.
This will be referred to the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. What is the next resolution for referral?
The next resolution is Resolution 2425R-007 by Director Ferguson on a financial analysis concerning scanning equipment.
This will be referred to the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. Madam Secretary, what is the next item on our agenda?
Madam President, we are back to the items that were previously deferred.
Madam Secretary, would you please remind us of those items?
The items deferred are from the reports and communications from the Board Clerk, Chief Officer, Office of Board Governance. Item 2, action on a request to retire to executive session to confer with legal counsel with respect to pending or probable litigation. Item 3, action on a request to retire to executive session relative to the status of an employee. Item 4, action on a request to retire to executive session relative to demands for collective bargaining. Item 5, action on a request to retire to executive session relative to an employee who disregarded a board directive and legal advice. Item 6, action on a request to retire to executive session for consideration of and possible action on performance evaluation data relative to the interim superintendent of schools. Item 7, action on a request to retire to executive session for consideration of and possible action on performance evaluation data relative to an employee.
The chair will accept a motion to retire to closed session.
I move that we retire to closed session.
And a second, please.
Second.
President Herndon, you need to list the items, what they're pursuant to.
Okay. On item, let's see. On item 2, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 19.85, paren 1, paren G. On items 3 and 5, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 19.85, paren 1, paren B, paren C, paren F, and paren G. On item 4, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 19.85, paren 1, paren E. On item 6, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren C. On item 7, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren C, and paren F. Does any member so move? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
And who was the second on that one? Director Garcia. No, Leonard. All right, on Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to retire to closed session on reports and communications from the Board Chief Officer, items 2 through 7 pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent B, parent C, parent E, parent F, and parent G. Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
President Herndon.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, the motion passes.
We will be adjourning the meeting to go into closed session. The board may return to open session to take action on matters discussed in closed session. Otherwise, the board may adjourn from closed session. Madam Secretary, please note the time.
Got it.